Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is John, and welcome to another tutorial series. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So typically, the size that I work is around 4,000 by roughly 15 to 1900 in height. Sometimes if I need to work larger, then I'll go maximum 5 to 6,000, but it's usually if I'm doing a really big painting and it's for print. But for client work, I mean, this is a pretty good size right here. So we're going to do a series of maybe one or two simple black and white sketches, and the goal for this demo is to show you guys how I transition from black and white to just simple colors. So what we're going to do here is start off with a very simple tone in the background, because I want to make sure that we're not working with complete whites. And it's usually easy to colorize a background like this. And we're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to use the lasso tool and also use something called the shape tool. The shape tool is actually it was actually inspired by Sparth. His name is Nicholas, but he actually goes by Sparth, and he is the art director of Halo up at 343. And I'm going to use these tools. If you look right under here, you're going to go down to custom shape, and I pre-made a bunch of cool shapes up here that you guys can try out. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of start layering on just some shapes. And you can just see in the instant, you can just see the instant kind of amount of scale and detail we're getting, right? This is a really fun technique. I highly recommend you guys trying this out. And if you haven't, go ahead and check out ways to make custom pattern tools. It's all on Sparth's tutorial site. He demonstrates a really amazing tutorial on how to generate this stuff, so it's really cool. But I'm gonna be doing a little bit of this and also just kind of painting on top as well. But I love this technique because there's so much freedom and range that you can get with just some of these shapes. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of use this technique. And when I need to, I'm going to go ahead and actually do some painting on top if I need to change up some of the shapes or some of the details here. And if, let's say, we don't like some of these rocks, then, let's go ahead and edit some of that stuff out. Use a simple flat brush. Just to create a little bit more of an obvious composition here. Another fun one is actually using the pattern, the shape tool here to create highlights as well. Great way of kind of generating and creating just really nice shapes that my brain would have just a hard time developing. Like a lot of these shapes and these patterns actually come from photography, so this would be incredibly hard to capture. Alright, so this is kind of what we have, and I'm thinking of doing something simple, like just a really simple kind of mountainscape sketch here. Okay, maybe some sort of like mountainous structure back here. And I always like using silhouettes to start off. And there you have it. Some sort of like little nice ledge here. And what we're going to do is, in order to have a little bit more interest here, I'm going to go ahead and actually alter or give this a more of an interesting shape. So we can actually add some little peaks and things like that, just to give it less of a kind of a lasso tool vibe, you know. I have all these shapes here, so you can go ahead and just kind of feel free. It gets a little crazy just because of the amount of stuff that's available on here, but I just love the amount of variety. So we're gonna go ahead and save this before we lose anything. Alright, let's go ahead and see if we can add just a little bit of, I want a little bit of like form and structure back there, so I'm thinking of something like this. Nope, not that. Sometimes it's kind of tricky to know which one you're using. And I'm going to work within this existing silhouette, so I'm going to color pick this here, and I'm just going to pick a slightly different, you know, slightly lighter value. And let's go ahead and do this. Let's create a layer here, and we're going to actually move this selection over so we get some nice instant shapes here, shadow shapes. And then from here I can just basically edit out what I want and what I don't want. Let's go ahead and add to this. I think it might be cool to have like some sort of building or maybe a castle. Boom, castle, done. Right? Really fun and easy. Maybe the scale's a little off, but maybe we'll do something like that. It's a very simple composition that I'm dealing with here, or I'm trying to make, because I definitely want to show you guys how to colorize this here. It's funny how like instantly when I do this, this looks like an observatory, right? Just like this big dome. But we definitely want to keep a nice sense of scale here, so let's go ahead and just stick with that. Maybe we can change up the architecture a little bit. And when you guys are doing this technique, be sure to mix it up with you know, paintbrush strokes and also using the shapes, because you know you don't want to completely only use shapes all the time, because it starts to get a little bit homogeneous, and it gets really just kind of, you can just tell that everything was just done using this tool, and it's good for a start, but then you definitely want to have your own like little added 2 cents to it, you know. Okay, so we have that. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of form lighting on that. You can do this manually, or you can use the shape tool here. I've actually created a ton of different selections here, different patterns and things like that, and you can just see like just a range of different shapes. Like already here, there's a nice little architectural one that I put in. The general rule is like, you know, put it on really strong here, just like that, and then take away from it if you need to. So I usually kind of apply it with 100, you know, full strength, you know, just really brood. Like I'm really like crude with this thing, and then just take away whatever you don't need. And you can kind of obscure it a little bit, so it's kind of a nice little working method, because it doesn't necessarily need to stick to that you know, that form. And then from here, let's go ahead and paint it up. You know, let's take away at these little shapes here, the things that we don't need. Some of it's pretty cool, and others it's kind of like, nah, I don't need it, you know. I can do without it. little bit of shadow here casting. I'm going to simplify some of these forms. Maybe even get some like slightly rock ledges on here. Just so we don't like overly simplify it. It's kind of a decent start here. Let's add one more layer of composition. Maybe some sort of a, you know, further mountain structure here. And look how wacky these silhouettes get. Let's do something like that. And we can go ahead and even move these shapes around just to see what you want to keep versus what you don't want. I'm probably gonna make this smaller. Okay, we have something like that. Now, at this distance, I'm probably not going to add any detail. It's a bit unnecessary. But here, you know, we can definitely start thinking about maybe some mid-ground shapes. Now, there's a couple ways we can do it. We can use the lasso tool, which is one of my more favorite ways of working, just because you have a little bit more control, and you're able to kind of like see your composition a bit more. Alright, so even when I do something like that, let's put this down here. And even when I make another shape like so, look at how immediately it kind of creates a nice framing device. Now, compositionally, I probably don't want this only because the amount of spacing here is relatively similar, you know? So if I'm going to have something like this, then I probably want to maybe either open it up or try to favor one side more than the other. Like, this is a nice composition. It kind of brings our eye at a starting point here, you know, and it kind of swings over. But there's a couple of other things here I would say is like the rock shapes here are too similar in height and also width, so I'll probably use that to break that up and even duplicate this and turn it around to add just a little bit more complexity. Now these are pretty dark in value, so I'm gonna have to knock these back a bit just because of the distance factor, right? We don't want these to be too dark. We want them dark enough to only say, hey, you know, they are pretty close, but they're these are more of a mid-ground rock source. So I'm gonna keep it here. This one here, this rock, we can either choose to keep, or we can just open, just kind of have it more of a simple open composition here. Excuse me. Oh, there we go. And I'm gonna go ahead and use my my shape tool here, just to add a little bit of texture to this thing. So I don't want this rock to just feel like, you know, some sort of boring silhouette. And I'm just gonna paint in just a couple of marks here. And same with this stuff too. You know, we can add just some darker shape silhouettes. And be selective with it, you know, like sometimes it works you get nice happy accidents, and other times you just gotta keep doing it over and over again, you know, keep retrying. It's not always 100% that, you know, these patterns always work, but it's definitely a nice start. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. I don't think we need that shape, and we definitely don't need this number 1 here. That's no good. Okay, so you can see, you know, we went from like an open kind of, you know, composition, and we started enclosing it. Now it's all subjective. It's up to you guys, you know, how you want to frame it. But you know, once you have a decent, you know, black and white painting, whether it's something that you just did completely by hand or using this tool, now we're gonna get into some colorizing. But let's go ahead, before we get into all of that madness, let's actually go ahead and just add just a little bit of atmosphere here. I just want to add just some atmospheric perspective, just to kind of draw our eye a little bit closer, you know, to the foreground here. I'm going to actually compress this to make this easier. But I want to do this because as it goes back into the distance, we're going to get a lot of you know, atmosphere that's kind of pushing these rocks and stuff back, these forms. You know, it's just what naturally happens in nature. Same here. These rocks are actually pretty dark, so these ones right here, they're pretty close in value. This is like 25 and that's 17. So I'm going to go ahead and just lighten it up just to really push those back just a little bit further. And then maybe just kind of lighten it up just a tad bit. Okay, cool. And then let's go ahead and just add maybe just a little haze or something. Just so like everything's not too cut out and looking like a silhouette. And it's kind of nice because our eye just knows how to just glide across this stuff, and you get these little nice peaks and things like that, you know. You can also add a soft edge here just so that it you know, it's not, you don't get this like perfect perpendicular tangent, not tangent, but like intersection here. So I'm gonna just kind of darken that up a little bit as well. And there you have it. We have our simple, you know, black and white composition that we did in like 15 minutes or so. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this one out. I think this is a good starting one. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna group these. I'm gonna save this out, and we're gonna go ahead and start our next one. Okay. All right, same deal. I'm gonna block in the canvas. And then I'm going to start my composition sketch. This time I'm thinking of doing maybe like more of like a simple, you know, like landscape with water kind of scene. I always like to start off with my horizon line, and I'm just using the lasso tool here. Maybe something like that. Make sure it's straight. And let's go ahead and just kind of block in. I'm just going to block in my basic foreground, you know, midground shapes or something. And when I'm doing these foreground and midground shapes, I'm just thinking about, you know, just masses. I'm just thinking of like overall, like, you know, shapes, like very dominating, like you know, gestures that will add to the composition. And it's nothing really, you know, specific. It's just more of like a, like what are if everything was kind of if everything was more like overcast, what would all this stuff look like, you know, without any of the details? It's like kind of looking at the grand gesture of the entire landscape, or Or if you're doing with architecture, then, you know, what does that look like? And it's really simple. It's just like this 1, 2, 3 kind of, you know, start. And then from here, we're going to start adding in a little bit more complexity to it. So I'm thinking here it might be cool to have like a bed of water or something. So we can go ahead and use the pattern, use some of the pattern stuff here, and see what we can come up with. I'm going to use this sky value here. Let's start off with the sky value. I'll lock this and let this kind of be or act as my water. Let's just put this on a different layer just in case we change our minds. And sometimes it'll work, and other times you'll have to find yourself, you know, like making a lot of adjustments and edits and things like that. But you know, just to kind of lay something in, it's actually quite effective, and it works really well. Let's get a more simple shape. And sometimes I'll actually even use, like, you know, a tree brush or like a building brush. Like even this is a tree, right? But then if you stretch it horizontally, you suddenly get like this kind of texture, what looks like water, like instantly. Right, you get kind of this nice water shape, so that's kind of cool. And again, as I mentioned, we do have to still paint on top, so you know, I'd highly encourage painting some of these shapes, and also, if it helps, is taking away some of these shapes too. I'm going to put this on a mask and just kind of take away some of this stuff, some of these shapes here, just to create some landmass, like even on the water itself. Because again, there's quite a bit of complexity from those from the patterns here, from the shape tool. So I definitely want to go in here and just kind of simplify some of this stuff. Maybe something like that. Might have got a little too dark. Okay, we'll keep it simple like this. This is a nice simple gesture. I don't like this shape though. See, immediately you can already tell, without having to really paint the details, like what you want and what you want to keep versus what you want to take out. It's like your eye just instantly knows. You just know, like, this doesn't look good, you know? It's like trying on clothes or something. So that's what I like about this technique. It's a great technique. And again, I'm not going to take any credit on this kind of stuff. This is all Sparth. He did just a phenomenal job of breaking it down so that it's really easy to follow, very understandable. And I highly encourage you guys, even though we're using the tools here that I'm going to provide you guys, I highly encourage you guys to pick up what Sparth did, just because he shows you, you know, how to actually make some of this stuff. And if you want to just learn how to make this stuff too, just very simply, you know, you can go on just Google and just find some really simple tutorials on how to generate these types of or how to create this in Photoshop. It's relatively straightforward. Look at that. I mean, that's so simple, man. It's already done. We'll edit this out, and then we'll add this top here. It's pretty cheap. I mean, when you start to work this way, you're like, what? The possibilities of creating so many interesting compositions. It's endless, man. It's literally endless. Okay. As I said, I'm going to keep this one very simple, so I'm not going to fuss with it anymore. If I'm going to add anything else, it'll probably just be like maybe really distant you know, rocks or mountainous ranges here. So let's just go ahead and add just something really far in the back. And you know, you don't even need to use a shape tool for this. You can just kind of like just quickly lasso in a couple bumps here and there. It's all just to kind of create, you know, the sense of scale. You know, like all these little tiny little shapes way out in the distance. And we're actually going to go ahead and lighten that up just a little bit more. Okay. Alright, and there you have it, guys. Our second set of thumbnails. Okay, pretty simple, right? So, you know, go ahead and try this out. I mean, it's a nice little technique, and it works very effectively. And yeah. Now let's colorize these guys. So let's go ahead and start with this one, since it has the most amount of complexity. Or we can start with this one, but I'm going to start with this one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring in or import an existing sky that I've picked out, and I'm going to just kind of bring it in here. I have a couple several different types of skies that I think might be appropriate for this kind of stuff. And when I'm doing this, guys, I want you guys to just keep in mind just the type of sky and how I'm using it, okay? Because this is just one way of colorizing your images, and it's going to be a really simple technique. You know, I want to make sure that this transition from black and white to color is relatively easy to follow for you guys. So I'm just going to show you guys several different techniques here, or several different skies, to show you how to lay them on here. And these are some skies that I actually purchased from an artist named Ben Morrow, who's just a phenomenal designer, and he actually has a ton of reference packs. So if you guys haven't yet checked it out, go ahead and pick up some of his photo libraries. It's really awesome. He has some great stuff. And I told him, I was like, you know, when I buy it, I'm gonna definitely try to do like 500 paintings or something. So check this out, guys. I'm gonna basically put this on top. Okay, I'm gonna put this on top. But what I'm gonna do here is, as I overlay this on top, I have all of the shapes down here. So if I need to mask anything out, I'm gonna keep that available. Okay, but I'm just gonna kind of brute force lay this on top and just kind of see where it goes. Okay, so I'm gonna stick it here first, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually stretch the sides. Let me go ahead and you know, make sure I have these available for you guys. Call it reference, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually stretch out the sides here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want all that color, that influence, to just come across the entire canvas here. Okay. All right, there we go. I have that. I don't need to do it here because it's already dark, and I'm gonna actually put this on multiply. Boom! Epic painting done. Right? We have our painting. It is done, and I don't need to do any more. No, just kidding. But this is a start. This is where we start here, and what I want to do is start thinking about ways that I can, you know, combine or get some of this color influence onto our image here. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a selection here and copy paste. Whoops. Copy paste. And I'm actually going to colorize this guy. So we're gonna use a little bit of overlay to kind of colorize and get some of these colors going. Now it can be a little intense, but I'm okay with that for now. Let's see. let me do something here real quick. I'm going to actually make a selection of our highlights here instead. And let's actually go ahead and colorize that. Now, it's a bit much, but this is kind of the subtlety that I do want for this lighting scheme. And we can definitely edit and take away, but you can already see as I kind of overlaid and just used this palette here, it instantly kind of got it in this nice tone, right? And this tone is what I really want here, is that it has a nice lighting tone. And you can use different modes. I usually like to go multiply because it just goes over everything, but you know, overlay works really well. You know, it's more it's less dramatic. Soft light tends to be a little bit lighter, you see. It almost still has that monochromatic, that gray look, but then if you go multiply, notice how dramatic it already gets, right? Just gonna add a little bit more contrast there, and then we're gonna go ahead and actually add just a little bit more more of this nice like golden hour. Well, it's not really golden hour per se, but this really epic, you know, sunset vibe here, just to intensify this. You know, we can do several ways. We can actually adjust the colors here, bump it up a little bit, just so we can get more of this nice atmosphere. Let's actually do that. Let's go ahead and intensify it and bump it up just a tad bit. Yeah, that's cooler. And here I'm going to add this nice like blue from the actual from this tone here. Now when I do this, notice how I'm just kind of layering it here, and I just have it on a normal mode, and I just want to make sure that it doesn't disrupt anything. And I'm actually painting it directly on top of this here. This layer here, I have it on screen just in case I want to intensify the red, but I don't want that. I actually want the red to be up here, just so our eye kind of catches this nice like this nice vibe, this nice tone here. And there you have it, guys. It's pretty much it. Very simple, you know. I don't want to overcomplicate this process for anyone and make it more complex than it is. It's a fairly simple way of going about, you know, painting and making a nice little scene here. Let's go ahead and actually delete this out. Little weird artifact. And also we have these like these selections here on our tools. So this is what's really nice, is that I can easily go on top and actually make edits, make changes to the color, right? I can also add more contrast if I need to. And I love the access, the ability to you know, just have these selections, these silhouette selections here just so that when we need, I can add more contrast. If I wanted that edge to pop out, I can just do that, right? Or if I want this top here to be darker, then I can do that. Just make it very, very obvious. But I kind of like that lost edge, how it fades out a little bit. It gives a nice little tone. So we're gonna go ahead and keep that. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So this is our silhouette. So let's just kind of look at the before and after. Before and after, right? So the sky does a lot. It does like 95% of the job, and that's really why it's important to have and collect reference. If you don't, then it's this constant guessing game, and you know, you don't want to fall into the trap of like trying to struggle and figure out your colors. So step one done. All right, let's go ahead and do the next one here. All right, let's go with this guy. Okay, so we got this image, and this one's a pretty simple one as well. But because we have all of these skies, I should just choose from one and see what works. You know, and I mean, I like this palette. It's really nice. And again, if you pick an image or a photo, don't feel like you have to use the entire thing. You know, like just be selective with it. You know, try to find unique opportunities to see what and how you can actually use this in a more interesting fashion. So you know, you can even use a sliver of it. So look at that, guys. Check that out. Everything is kind of this golden hour-y color, and the main reason for that is, one, my composition is definitely backlit. You notice how all the shapes are backlit, so that's why I'm gonna go more for this kind of lighting scheme. It is the easiest, and probably the reason why I'm showing you guys this first, before you know, I show you guys other complex lighting scenarios. But let's go with what we can get away with first, and then we'll build up to that. So again, either multiply or overlay, and I'll show you guys the difference. Look at multiply. It like gets dark really fast. Okay, it's only good if you want that intensity, you know, those darks. But then sometimes you might want the lights. So this is what's really good on overlay. And I'm just gonna crunch it a little bit, and let's go ahead and actually expand this stuff here. We're gonna do that, and I use this photograph here. So because I use this photograph, I got to make sure that the consistency is there. So I don't want to combine other photographs just yet. I just want to keep it to what it is, and I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm actually going to see if we can do something like this and apply it down here. Now when I do this down here, notice what I'm going to do. I'm not going to put it on overlay. I'm going to put on multiply, because I want to see how much of it's going to affect the ground plane and just in general how it's going to look, right? I'm really genuinely curious in terms of like how a lot of these colors are going to translate and transfer over. If this doesn't look good, then it's easy for us to go into, you know, overlay, and we'll get something like this. But I knew that this would happen just because the ground is lighter. So, you know, we have to do a lot of editing and make sure this works. But I might just go on multiply and actually just kind of color balance a little bit. You know, either make it more warm and more yellow, or we can just enhance the saturation to give it that nice variation there. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and actually apply this on here, just like this, without the sky. Okay, again, we have these awesome selections, so we have to make use of that. Okay, let's go ahead and just delete some of this. I'm using the healing wand here, which is kind of the same thing as like the clone brush. It's just a lazier way of dealing with it. And I'm just gonna go ahead and just delete some heads, some legs, because you know there's no legs in our composition here. Okay, and then let's go ahead and try to get this, you know, to fit a little bit more properly. So I'm gonna make a mask here, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually use this. And plop it on. You know what? Actually, let's go ahead and just plop it on first, and then let's take away at it. Take away from it. So I like to just kind of do a little bit of erasing here. And it can be a hard erase or it can be a soft erase, really up to you. But I usually like to just kind of see how much I can get away by erasing, and just kind of being a little bit more sensitive to this stuff here, and not erasing away too much. And again, we have the selection here. What's great is like I can start making some artistic, you know, choices here, and just start taking away this stuff here on top. Just making sure that we have the option of editing and removing this stuff. And I got all of this like water stuff here, right? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna make a selection of the ground here, and I'm gonna see if there's a way for me to actually select some of this water, this color here, and actually just use and transfer over or translate. And I'm being very brute with it. Notice how it's getting really messy, and it's cutting into our other silhouettes and things like that. But I kind of don't mind. I don't care, because you know I'm gonna eventually have to you know, sort all this stuff out. I'm gonna do this and delete that selection, so now we have something like this, right? Just want to double check and make sure that it's all to our liking. And again, we do have a mask, so if anything doesn't look or feel right, I can easily just start to edit and clean up here. You know, if like this doesn't look right, you know, if I want all this stuff cleaned up, or you know, we have all of these selections here, and this is the reason why I saved and I created these individual masks, so that we can easily go on top and just clean up silhouettes like that. You see? Like it makes life so much more easier. And I'm going to use a smudge brush here to actually simplify some of this stuff. And then I do have this here that's going to go on top of everything to really simplify. If you notice, like it's definitely simplifying it even more so, and keeping only what I need. So this one's a little bit more involved, only because we have to go back and forth and kind of make sure things look right, make sure our shapes look okay. And more importantly, it kind of still feels like our silhouette, you know? Like I don't want it to detract away from from what we blocked out. Okay, so we got that. It's looking half decent. I mean, there's some things here that are really crisp. I'm probably gonna have to kill that a little bit later on. And I'm gonna go ahead and overlay this lighting here. Boom. Instant. It instantly works. It instantly has this nice feel. I'm gonna bring this down, and again, we can move the sky around to see what we like. But this is not bad. I like kind of what we kind of initially blocked in. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually just slightly lighten or erase away the ground here, just like that. Because I definitely want this sense of contrast here, light and dark contrast. And again, we can always lighten things. We can lighten the sky. We can brighten it up. You know, tonally, it's really up. It's all fair game. Anything and everything will go. Anything works. Let's go ahead and actually simplify some of this stuff here. Okay. All right. I'm gonna copy merge this because I'm gonna call this one good to go, and we're gonna go ahead and just paint individually. Go on here and just edit and paint on top of these selections, these areas, just to kind of kill the crudeness of some of these textures, man. I mean, this thing is, it's a little bit too brute. Like, you know, I thought I was okay with it being strong, but it's a little too strong. And this is why you know, I really want to encourage you guys to kind of go back and forth and do a little bit of painting, a little bit of you know, editing on top, because again, you don't want to just lay something out, you know, a painting down, and you know, put down the information, just be like, it's done. You know, you definitely want to go on top and try to make some of these edits work. I'm going to go ahead and actually slightly alter this shape here. It's a little wishy-washy, meaning like it's a bit hard to tell what's going on here with the landscape, so I'm just going to go ahead and actually alter it slightly. Okay, we have that, and then what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna bring a little bit of this light. Let's go ahead and compress this down, but I want to bring a little bit of this nice light here. I put my brush on lighten, and I'm just kind of letting it feather through. And what I mean by that is just like kind of giving it this nice atmospheric atmospheric perspective, so that things kind of sit nicely. A lot of photography, because the lens, like it likes to pick up a lot of these the light bleeds and things like that. So that's kind of what you're seeing here. Now I do have this opportunity of showing just a little bit of a landscape here. And we can have the option of actually picking this color and just painting, and it kind of creates a nice impression of, maybe the ground that we see here. I don't want to get too detailed, I just want a really, really light impression. Okay, and also, just to add to this, let's go ahead and use our shape tool to just give just a little bit more breakup on the ground. Just something. Just to give it a nice compositional break here. Kind of like the idea of like there being some sort of like rock-like structure here, some sort of impression. All right, and let's just go ahead and double check our shot. Let's just kind of look at it. There's some things that I definitely want to clean up, so again, I'm just gonna kind of go back and just simplify. So again, photos can be really good, but again, there's a lot of information that gets embedded immediately. So I just want to go ahead and try to simplify this stuff just a little bit, so it's easier for us to kind of look at. Okay, got that. And then let's go ahead and actually add a little bit more contrast, because I think that's what this needs. Just a bit more, just visual contrast to kind of draw our eye in here. Because that's what I really liked about these photos, is that it has the strong silhouette, but also has the same amount of contrast. That the lightest source is here. It's directly perpendicular, or the sun hits here on the ground plane, and as it goes away from it, it's only going to have, really just the light, the skylight, to kind of help define the shadow areas. So if we need to, let's go ahead and just add just a little bit more to this. And I love working this way, because it, especially, you know, using photos to kind of help solidify just a nice lighting scheme, because it kind of makes you think about like what happens in real life and how do we get this to kind of simulate that. And to me, that's you know, very, very interesting. And if you can get it to look photorealistic or have that kind of appearance, then, you know, it gets really fun. You can start to kind of adjust and manipulate, you know, a lot of lighting and a lot of the impression of how we see an image. Okay, let's just see if there's any last minute things. I definitely like the amount of contrast here, and if you look here, we don't have that same contrast, right? If you look right there, so I'm gonna again use a mask here, and actually let's go ahead and use this here, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually sample the sky here and just kind of ever so slightly just hit what is perpendicular, basically what's hitting this area directly below. And you'll notice we'll get kind of this right here. It's an utter mess, right? But this is where I can just erase. I can erase all this stuff because we have all these selections, and it's very easy for us to quickly make these edits. Alright, let's see if we can add just a little bit more of this nice like light, this kind of like light that's bleeding through. I'm actually going to colorize this and make this a little bit warmer, since it's in the skylight. You know, I don't want this to appear like it's getting that much light bleed. And also, I still feel like we need more contrast. It's weird. It's like, you know, I know this is, it's not it's dark, but still feel like it needs just a tad bit more contrast. Maybe just because of how my eye is reacting, I just feel like, you know, there's so much contrast in the lighting of this object that I feel like, you know, I want to see just more shadows and, you know, extreme values here. Alright, there you have it, guys. Before and after. So I hope that was insightful. And yeah, love to know what you guys think. And thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thanks.